Welcome to Amateur Hour, everybody. We're going in hot. We're doing Pokemon Blue in glorious full color and high definition. Intro cinematic. We've got Jigglypuff on the right and Gengar on the left. Both of them extremely popular, but this is a mismatch profoundly. So Jigglypuff just suicided into Gengar, and we are going to be diving into this game with equal or greater enthusiasm and hopefully more of a chance as well. We're going to party like it's 1998 in America and 1996 in Japan. I'm going to be playing this game under a self-imposed rule set that you might call hard mode. The internet calls it Nuzlocke mode, but that word is a complicated explanation that I don't really want to get into right now. The main rules of this are that you can only catch the first Pokemon that you encounter in a given area, excluding duplicates. This makes Pokemon a finite resource, especially because of the other rule, which is that if a Pokemon faints, I can't use them anymore. They're dead. So I can actually lose the whole game. But I hope I don't, because I'm recording this. Okay, here we go. This doddering old man is Professor Oak. He will be living vicariously through me and another character that you'll meet shortly. He did not pursue his lifelong dream while he was young and capable. So he's going to have us do it. We're going to be his hardworking, unpaid interns. But don't worry, we're going to make a bunch of money anyway. So the world is full of magical creatures called Pokemon. This one's called Weepinbell. My dad is surprisingly familiar with Weepinbell and recognized his image in a wool hat. In the normal version of the game, the Pokemon depicted here is Nidorino, I guess discovered by Ned Flanders. I actually made a couple tweaks to this version of the game using a utility called the randomizer. But I didn't do anything random, I just made some miscellaneous tweaks to improve the quality of life. So I'll discuss those briefly. So I didn't do anything with the core gameplay. All I did was I made the text show up instantly. I I changed the way that Pokemon names are rendered, where instead of all caps, it's the first letter's capitalized and the rest are in lowercase, because it looks a little better and I don't really like getting yelled at. And evolutions by trade that require another game and a link cable to have happen have been tweaked so that they can occur just naturally. And other than that, I mean, there have been no other gameplay changes, so it's going to be mostly pure. For some people, Pokemon are pets, others use them for fights. We're going to be using them for fights, but we're going to care about them like pets. Maybe you've heard that Pokemon is basically magical cockfighting. You have no idea how right you are. Okay, so Professor Oak is our next door neighbor and he doesn't know our name. It's Wetleaf. Well, I guess it's not quite confirmed that Professor Oak lives in the house that I'm thinking of, but you'll see. And then this kid is our rival. We're both about 10 years old. He's been your rival since you were a baby. I don't know what that means. Shaking rattles menacingly at each other, I guess. Note the European spelling of We're going to name this guy after a friend of mine that I associate with the color blue, because this is a blue version. So, shout out Radio. I'm going to kick your ass on YouTube. He doesn't remember his own grandson's name, famously. He needs to do some Sudoku puzzles or something. Alright, so our legendary adventure begins by shrinking down to the size of a single tile, and here we are in our bedroom playing the Super Nintendo. But it's time to go. So we got a pretty nice room, very spacious at least. We got a bed, we got a plant, we have a computer. Now, both items and Pokemon are stored as data on the computer, so we have a meager collection of assets to start. A single potion. A potion heals 20 missing HP from your Pokemon. That's their health. So if we go downstairs, we talk to Mom. All boys leave home someday. Yeah, usually not at 10 years old. Okay, so Professor Oak does live next door. The house only depicts my room and the downstairs. Where does Mom sleep? Where do either of us take a shit? Nobody knows. Now here's something pretty cool. Movie on TV, 4 boys are walking on railroad tracks. I better go too. You know what movie it is? I hadn't seen it yet by the time I had played this game as a kid for the first time on March 28th, 1999. The movie is Stand By Me. it was a really good movie when I finally did see it, and it's is actually really cool because for a while in the 90s, video games seemed kind of apart from pop culture. Like, they didn't really make references to the outside world that much. They were just kind of underground, and then gradually, especially like with the inclusion of voice acting and stuff like that, they just seemed to be more a part of the world that you played them in. In any case, well, we've reached the end of the game, or at least that's what some dumb-ass kids thought in the 90s, because they got here and they're like, oh my god, what do you do? I don't know how to get out of my own house. They got trapped. People say they were trapped for like hours. Hours. Can you figure it out? Can you figure out how to get out of the house? Out the window, maybe? Surely you're thinking out the window. Nope. Maybe there's a secret book in the bookshelf? Crammed full of Pokemon books. At least the way it's depicted in the game, the Pokemon world seems to revolve entirely around Pokemon. Which makes sense given their vast power, although some people have a theory that it's really just something that kids are mostly interested in. Anyway, you see these two tiles down here? That's the doormat. You just walk out the front door. Kids back then, man. Okay, so welcome to Pallet Town. Not spelled correctly, but it does foreshadow that the whole rest of the towns in the game are named after colors. So a bit of a vocabulary expander, because these are obscure colors, as you'll see later. So here's Radio's house. It's also Professor Oak's house. I don't know why it says the 10-year-old kid's name on the sign. And hey, look, Pallet Town is a coastal town. It's practically a resort, but we can't do anything to traverse water yet, so we'll just have to ignore that. And this guy is saying what I already told you, so let's just go into Radio's house and see if we can find his grandpa. Nope, we can't even find a up staircase, but we can find his sister. Oh, okay. So Radio's at the lab, but we don't know where Professor Oak himself is. Okay, let's go check out the lab, how about? Here we go. I guess this music is supposed to be all academic. It's somewhat reminiscent of Pomp and Circumstance, but I don't know if I only think that because it's the theme music of a lab. I study Pokemon as Professor Oak's aide. I study Pokemon as Professor Oak's aide. So Professor Oak tragically has aides that seem to have the same personality, so no wonder he hires a couple of 10-year-old kids afterward. And then he's got a token woman on his team too. And here he is in all his glory. Yo, Wetleaf, Gramps isn't around. Yeah, I can see that. And look at these huge spheres on the tables. They're Pokeballs with Pokemon in them. They're not actually as big as we are. That's just for you know, quality of life. Well, I don't know where else to go, so let's go into this tall grass over here that's perfectly safe. Holy shit! And he appears... Where was he coming from? My house? Was he having an affair with my mom or something? The dad is usually not a presence in the Pokemon games. There is one very interesting exception that we'll get to someday. So, Oak teaches us that Pokemon live in the grass, and without our own Pokemon, we'll get our shins scratched and our fingers bitten and all that kind of stuff, so he appeared just in time to save us from ourselves. Okay, now we can get rolling here. Gramps, I'm fed up with waiting. Alright, so Professor Oak's memory problems have been temporarily subdued enough for him to remember that he's gonna give us some Pokemon. Oh, he only has 3 Pokemon left? Okay. So, we're both going to get a Pokemon, and the remaining one will be left on the table, trapped, for the entire rest of the game, which is actually rather sad. It would be cool if you could eventually come back and get it somehow, perhaps by like beating the game, but nope, it's just gonna sit there forever. So we've got an incredible choice to make here. So the 3 starters are divided into A fire one. This is Charmander. A water one. And a grass one. That's Bulbasaur. So, they have a rock, paper, scissors sort of relationship with each other. It's not particularly pronounced this early on, but water beats fire, beats grass, beats water. And we get to pick first. And Radio gets to pick second. So he, because he's an asshole, always chooses the one that beats yours. Which one should I pick? Well, this has been this is one of the most commonly debated topics in the whole franchise. The manual tells you to pick Bulbasaur if you're a beginner. But we're gonna leave it up to the random number generator, and there's a lot of theories and a lot of analysis of who to pick, and it kind of depends on what your goal for the game is. If you're speed running it, then you pick Squirtle. Let's just say that not everyone has a very strong understanding of what the game actually asks of you. But we're going to leave it up to a random number generator. Okay, here we go. Alright, I rolled a 3, so out of 1, 2, and 3. So I'm picking the third one, and we're going to get Bulbasaur. So, as for the other differences between them besides their types, here's a really quick kind of summary. Charmander's fast, Squirtle is tough, and Bulbasaur is strong. We are not going to nickname Bulbasaur yet, because I want the viewers to see if they have any suggestions. And then, seeing that we have picked the Pokemon with a plant on its back, Radio goes right ahead and picks the one that breathes fire. Because he knows that he sucks and that he wouldn't have a chance against us otherwise. So let's meet our Bulbasaur, and I can give you an overview of how Pokemon stats work. Okay, so at the top we've got his name. L5 is level 5. A level is the first figure to roughly approximating a Pokemon's power. He's got 20 maximum HP. He loses it every time he gets attacked. If he runs out, he faints, and for the purposes of this playthrough, he dies. There are also statuses that are separate from taking direct damage. Like, you can be poisoned, you can be frozen, you can be paralyzed, you can be put to sleep, you can be burned, and a couple others. And yes, this is a little confusing if you haven't played an RPG before, but you can actually be put to sleep in the middle of a fight and get hit with a really hard blow and still not wake up from it. That's just how these games work. We have some other stats here. Attack, defense, speed, special. Okay, so there's two categories of attacks in Pokemon. There's physical and special. Physical is like punching, kicking, tackling, stinging, slapping with your wings, gusts of wind, karate chops, kicks, sack taps, throwing sand, throwing rocks, being spooky. Did I miss any? And then there's special, which is burning, thunderbolts, ice and water, mental powers, dragon shit. And so attack governs your physical power. The more you have, the more damage you do with physical attacks. Defense reduces your damage taken from the enemy's physical attacks. Speed, if you have a higher speed, you go first. Always. And it doesn't matter if it's by 1 point or by 100. If your speed is higher, you go first. This is really important. Special functions as both attack and defense for the special attacks. So if you have a high special, and Bulbasaur does, you are good at both attacking and defending from the special side. Then we have his types, grass and poison. Actually, I don't know if this Bulbasaur is a him or her. It's probably a him. I'll get into it later. Pokemon have either 1 or 2 types. Bulbasaur has 2. He's famous as a grass-type Pokemon, and poison is listed as type 2, but it doesn't matter what order they go in. Bulbasaur is fully as much a poison Pokemon as he is a grass Pokemon. And the different attacks have types too. And so if the type of your attack matches favorably against the type of the body of the enemy Pokemon, then you do extra damage. But if you screw this up, then you do less damage, or maybe even none. OT is the original trainer. And of course, that's me, because I just picked him up off the table. And yeah, Professor Oak said it belonged to him beforehand. That doesn't really matter. If you get a Pokemon as a gift, it's considered to be yours from the get-go. And then we have his experience points. You get it by killing stuff. If you get enough points to level up, then you do so, and you get more stats and more moves. Right now, we only have 2 moves. There's Tackle, which is really basic and awful, and Growl, which doesn't even do any damage, but it does temporarily lower the enemy's attack. Only their attack. So if they are going to use special attacks, then Growl doesn't do anything. Tackle is a normal type attack. Normal is a little hard to explain. I'll get into it when we meet a normal type Pokemon. It's somehow intuitive and unintuitive at the same time. So, but suffice it to say, Bulbasaur doesn't have any grass or poison attacks right now. Spoiler alert, he'll never get a poison attack in this game of any substantialness. So he functions mostly as a grass Pokemon. But we'll learn more moves by leveling up. I'm going to save the game because if you haven't figured it out, if you haven't noticed, Radio is a little aggressive and antagonistic, so when we try to leave, he wants to fight us. So pretty much every Pokemon game features an extremely early duel with your rival, with your basic level 5 Pokemon that teaches you how to use the menu and click on attacks and stuff. And, well, you don't actually have to win to proceed, but since it will show that Bulbasaur faints if we lose, then I'd better win here, or I mean, I kind of just lose the game. So, my issue is that this battle can be one of 3 versions, depending on your starter. It's your Bulbasaur versus his Charmander, your Charmander versus his Squirtle, or your Squirtle versus his Bulbasaur. And this is the worst matchup. The reason is that Charmander is faster than Bulbasaur, so he always goes first, and he has Scratch, and you only have Tackle for your basic attack. Scratch is marginally more powerful than Tackle and is more accurate. Tackle only has 95% accuracy and Scratch has 100, which in this game actually means 255 out of 256. So there is a 0.4% chance that any so-called perfectly accurate attack can miss. And Bulbasaur's not incredibly strong, so from the physical side. So this is, we might have to use the potion, let's say. Okay, a good start. He missed with Growl, which can happen in this game somehow. Alright, so after hitting him with a Growl, he does 3 damage to us with Scratch, and then we hit him back with Tackle, and look at that. It's still like, I think we did, that looks like the same. It looks like we did 3 out of 20. So let's hit him with one more of these. It's really frustrating that he gets to go first. Okay, so we got him down to 2 damage a turn, but he brought us down 2. Of course, with numbers these small, there comes a point where playing around with the stats doesn't really make a big... Oh my fuck! No! So, critical hits. A critical hit basically just means you hit a weak spot, like Steph Curry hitting a 32-foot 3-pointer when the game is on the line or whatever. It's random, but you have a higher chance the higher your speed is. So, and it ignores any attack changes to your attack or defense. And it does between 50% to 100% more damage. I won't get into the formula now. So that really puts us at a disadvantage. And in fact, I think if he does it again, we're just dead. Yeah, so that's really unfortunate. However, I think we can hold on. Because I could crit him just as easily. Let's do it! Let's do it! Crit him! Didn't work. Okay, we're gonna blow our potion. Critical hits are extremely... They happen more often in this game than in future games. They're extremely frustrating, and they will be a huge threat to our survival. And if we have a Pokemon, I mean, you saw me screw it up here. If you have a Pokemon that's going to die if it gets critical hit, you can't leave them in. They're just so common that you're tempting fate. Okay, so this is kind of a hollow victory because we had to use an item, but Bulbasaur has to do what Bulbasaur has to do. And in the future, Bulbasaur will be better. 69, nice. Alright, so you see our HP went up by 2. Do you remember our numbers from before? Well, they're all a little higher now. Oh my goodness. I picked the wrong Pokemon. He really didn't. Now, if I hadn't gotten that potion out of my computer, then that would have been it. This is, I think, the only battle in the game where after it, you're fully healed. So we can move right on with what we have to do. And because we overshot the experience requirement for level 6 by a little, I don't know if you saw it, but it's only 32 experience points to level 7. So we're actually closer to level 7 than we were to level 6 back when we were level 5, if that makes any sense. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, darn it. We gotta make sure. So this is a Pidgey. Pretty much all Pokemon games introduce a very basic, weak bird Pokemon, and this is it. As a grass type, Bulbasaur doesn't really like flying Pokemon, but at such a low level, this doesn't really matter, and we can just wail on it. I think that when I was a kid, why do I keep getting critted? When I was a kid, I thought that the animation for Gust looked like a bugle, like the chips, you know, the cone-shaped chips that you would put on your fingertips, like witch fingernails. So my brother whistles this music all the time. He doesn't realize that it's from this game. What he's probably thinking of is that one like song from American folklore about Susanna or whatever that kind of sounds like this. I don't remember its exact title, but you know what I'm talking about. This guy gives us a free potion. Hooray. So as you can see, only the very long grass is where we can encounter a wild Pokemon. Pidgey and Rattata are the only 2 Pokemon on Route 1. These encounters don't count for the purposes of which Pokemon from this route I'm going to catch because I can't catch anything yet. So right now I'm just going to wail on them and get experience points. And look at that, we're already level 7, we have Leech Seed, a move that will be situationally useful. So Leech Seed is hard to explain if you have no familiarity with RPGs and stuff. Here, we'll go to the Pokemon Center. You can heal your Pokemon for free whenever you want. And a lot of people got confused back in the day when the lady says, "We hope to see you again." Now keep in mind, she just healed our Pokemon from its severe injury. I didn't really, I mean, you know what she means, right? And I didn't fully understand it in my heart until I started working in a rehab facility. But now I truly understand that yes, I am glad to see them again, rather than have them die in the streets. Pokemon Centers offer the healing, link cable functionality, which we will not be using, and a PC for managing Pokemon and items. So Leech Seed. You fling some creepy seeds at the opponent, and if it hits them, once per turn, they will have a small amount of health drained from them, and you get it back. So it helps keep you alive, but it's fairly weak in this game. There could be certain uses for it, though. We'll see. And this guy just recruited us to do some child labor. He won't even sell us anything in his shop. He just gave us a package to go deliver. So I guess there's no FedEx or UPS or anything in this world. Alright, so that means we gotta make our way back to Pallet Town, but it'll be surprisingly easy because we have these ledges we can jump over. You can only do it from the top. See? Whoop! So we can avoid a lot of the grass. For example, this whole patch, it just goes whoop and go around. But I have to go through this part. And what do you know? Of course, there's a battle. Alright, we'll just wail on it. See, doesn't it look like a bugle? Why? I think in 3 of the 4 battles that I've had so far, I have been critted. That's so obnoxious. So, Gust, the name implies that it's a... Jesus. That it's a flying type attack. In this game, though, it's actually a normal type attack. Regardless, Pidgey is both a normal and a flying type, and if your type matches the type of the move that you're using, you do 50% more damage. So, by focusing on what you're good at, you can do some more damage. So, Bulbasaur, you can kind of look at him as somewhat hobbled right now because he doesn't have any grass or poison attacks. Well, Leech Seed is a grass attack, but it doesn't do direct damage, so... Alright, we're going to deliver this package. Think of a nickname for Bulbasaur. And what do you know? Asshole shows up. So now we're being recruited to be unpaid interns. He's going to give us this fancy technology that keeps data on Pokemon. It helps us keep track of them all. In this game, there are 151. We won't see them all. I'll borrow a town map from my sister. I'll tell her not to lend you one. Ha ha ha. So there's a couple layers to this statement. One is that if you go see his sister, she will give you a town map anyway. I think because she wants to get it on with you. However, the other layer is that the town map is totally useless. And it's actually net negative in value because it takes up an inventory slot, which are limited in this game, and you can't throw it away. So we'll be ignoring that. Let's see. Your mom can heal you for free, so she's basically the Pokemon Center of Pallet Town, but there's no... And there's the PC in my room, so you can manage items, but you can't manage Pokemon in Pallet Town because there aren't any PCs with that functionality. So there's a town map on the wall here. The town map has nothing that you can't just look up or commit to your own memory, so totally worthless as an item. And we're gonna make the trek back up to Viridian City. Viridian is not one of the colors in this game for towns that I already knew about, so what a nice lesson. And as you can see on the Super Game Boy, which is how the Game Boy game is being colored, the town changes color to what its name is, pretty much. Alright, now that we've delivered the package, this asshole employee will condescend to sell us some stuff. In future games, if you buy 10 Pokeballs at once, you get a special 11th one for free that's very fancy. That's not in this game, but I still like to buy them 10 at a time anyway. And we have some other basic items here, but not even potions. It's weird. Very weird. You want to know about the 2 kinds of Caterpillar Pokemon? I sure do. Caterpie has no poison, but Weedle does. Watch out for its poison sting. That brief description makes Weedle sound strictly better than Caterpie. I'm not quite sure I agree with that. Alright, here's the thing though. We've got some Pokeballs. Let's go get some Pokemon. And then we'll take a break and then you guys can nickname them. Hooray! Is it gonna be Pidgey or Rattata? Okay. Level 4. That's the highest level of Pidgey available on Route 1, I'm pretty sure. So we'll just hit it with a couple tackles. And then we'll fling the ball. So a Pokeball is like, it seems like it's made of plastic, but it has a bunch of very complicated machinery inside, and it opens up and it shoots out a beam of energy or something, and it turns the Pokemon into a mass of light and sucks it into the ball and closes around it. And the ball shakes as the Pokemon struggles against it, but since you've weakened it, the ball is too powerful, and click, you get the Pokemon. So we got our first team member, Pidgey. Flaps its wings at ground level to kick up blinding sand. It can learn an attack that reflects this ability that may be very useful during this game to cheese our way through some tough challenges. We're not going to give a nickname yet because I want you guys to try to give it the nickname. So let's do a brief overview of Pidgey. Pidgey, its stats and the differences between them are not very pronounced by now, but Pidgey mostly focuses on speed and a little on defensive ability, particularly compared to fellow birds. It's not very strong though, and it doesn't learn very many good attacks. Its types are normal and flying. Flying is good against bugs and plants and martial artists for some reason. Normal is just kind of like, I don't know, it's just like being... I've actually philosophized quite a lot about the normal type, and it's hard to bring up everything I think while I'm also trying to play the game. So the normal type is often used for just like generic mammals and animals and stuff, and a lot of the attacks are just kind of like physically like whacking someone, but without the intention and expertise of a martial artist, which would be the fighting type. A lot of fat Pokemon are normal type. A lot of magical Pokemon are normal type, and later some of them would be changed to fairy or have the fairy type added. Alright, so this is actually Route, 22. It's off the beaten path. It's actually toward the end of the game, so we can't get all the way to the end of the game yet, but sometimes if you're a little kid and you're just barreling ahead in the game, you miss this area and you don't realize that you can catch Pokemon here. I don't quite want to go there yet for a reason that I will share shortly. There's a hidden potion in this weird looking tree. That tree looks weird because eventually you can learn to cut it down. Sometimes trees that you are capable of cutting, like this one, block your path. I mean, we're only 10 years old. You think we could just, like, shimmy past it, but you can't. You gotta wait till the Pokemon can learn to cut. Viridian City, the eternally green paradise. Well, it's okay. This place is a school. Okay, be sure to read the blackboard carefully. Well, we don't need to do that because you have me to tell you everything. And, let's see. So, we're going to have to go through a creepy forest to be able to advance. I've had my coffee now and I feel great. Sure, you can go through. Oh, I didn't show you before, but this guy was blocking the road because his granddaughter said he hadn't had his coffee yet today, which is a censorship-oriented translation. In the Japanese version, he's hungover, and that's why he's blocking the road and very cranky. So, he showed us how to catch Pokemon, even though we didn't consent to it. So, that's pretty disrespectful. And look, we can see a gym for the first time. A Pokemon gym is basically where you fight a bunch of trainers that use the same type of Pokemon, and if you beat the leader, then you get a badge. And if you get 8 badges, then you can challenge the Pokemon League, and you can become the champion, and then you win the game. And this gym is always closed. Well, that doesn't really seem fair. Very mysterious. And now we're on Route 2. So on Route 2, we can catch a new Pokemon, and I'm approaching this early part strategically. So if we can catch a certain Pokemon here, then it doesn't count for catching it elsewhere, and then maybe we can get something better instead. So, does that make any sense? So we'll see what we get here. Okay, Rattata, this is what I wanted. Because that Route 22 area that I showed you earlier also has Rattata available, but I don't want a Rattata. I want something else. So now, because under the rule set, I don't have to deal with duplicates, so I can just ignore Rattata and wait till I get something else. So here we go. We're going to go to Rattata, though, and Rattata's pretty good. It's workable. Rattata is perhaps emblematic of early Pokemon, where it's really just like, there's nothing special about it. It is really just a rat, but because it's a Pokemon, it's special. Rattata is fast and strong. As you can see, it's a level lower than Pidgey, but has more attack power. Rattata can not take a hit at all. It is very fragile. However, since it's a normal Pokemon and a lot of early game Pokemon just use normal moves, Rattata enjoys an early boost to its damage output. Alright, let's catch a couple more. Did I get attacked before? Yeah, I did. Okay, this next sequence might actually be a little difficult because there's 3 Pokemon that I could get on Route 22. One of them is called Spearow. Spearow is a bird that is stronger than Pidgey, and it has an attack called Peck. Peck is weak, like Scratch and Tackle and Gust, but it's flying type, and Bulbasaur takes double damage from flying type attacks. So Bulbasaur could actually be in some danger if I find like a level 5 Spearow and the battle doesn't really go well. So cross your fingers. Okay, so we've got a Nidoran female instead. The first Pokemon to have 5 syllables in its name. I guess now's a good time to talk about gender in Pokemon. So, gender in Pokemon is it really means sex, but they're not going to use a word like that in a game for children, so they just call it gender. Gender is not useful in Pokemon Blue, so it isn't rendered in the game in any way, although the way that it's determined is present in the game. So like I would be capable of figuring out what gender these Pokemon that I have are, but it just doesn't really matter at all. Except in the case of Nidoran, a Pokemon with such profound sexual dimorphism that the male and the female are considered totally separate Pokemon, and they evolve in totally separate ways. So we've got a true, undeniable lady on our team. Welcome. Nidoran female, compared to the male, and perhaps stereotypically, is more defensive, while the male is a little stronger and a little faster. And interestingly, although I don't know, it's not that interesting or important, but it is a little rare that for Nidoran, the status move comes before the attacking move. You'll notice that, by contrast, Bulbasaur has Tackle and Growl. That's the kind of weird stuff that I noticed from playing this game way too long. But you can change the order of the moves. So, are you thinking of nicknames for all this stuff? Let me review Nidoran female a little more and let you get a good look at it. It's hard to figure out exactly what it is. I think Nidoran female is the closest that Pokemon has to a guinea pig, which gives her a lot of points in my book. However, she has huge ears that are more like a messed up rabbit and is covered in like poisonous spikes. So not exactly the same. So there's a little rabbit in there, some sort of like vague rodent. And as it grows up, it will become more dinosaur-like. So just kind of all over the place. And that's one of the cool things about Pokemon design, really, is that they're not, as much as like in the Pokedex, they're described in ways that suggest a particular animal. Like, of course, rat. It's also like not really. And Pokemon, unless they're specifically designed to do so, they don't. It's not just like, oh, it like has the head of a lion and the body of a snake or whatever. They're just smoothly integrated concepts throughout the design. So yeah, Nidoran isn't really anything. It's just, she's just Nidoran, and she's a poison type. There are a ton of poison types in this game. I think it's like over a fifth of all the Pokemon in this game are poison type. Nidoran female has a potential to be a long-term contributor. Alright, so we're going to end this debut episode, this pilot episode, by going into the spooky forest, catching a Pokemon, and then taking a break so the viewers can do some nicknaming. It's a natural maze. It's actually not really a maze. Although if you are a 9-year-old kid and playing this game for the first time, it's easy to get lost and creeped out. Rattata may be small, but its bite is wicked. Did you get one? I did, and this is actually good information because Rattata does have some pretty good damage output. However, it does not actually learn the attack called Bite. It learns something that's way cooler. Alright, Spooky Forest, here we go. I came here with some friends. They're out for Pokemon fights. Look out, but we won't see that in this update. I guess it's not really an update, it's the first video. So I found a hidden item under the tree there, so that's kind of fun. Viridian Forest is full of bugs. I hope that we do not get a bug. I really hope we do not get a cocoon. I hope we get a Pikachu. You can find Pikachu here. Did you know that? There's a Pokeball on the ground there in case we need another one. Let me go over briefly why I care so much about what we find here. So bug Pokemon, especially in the early game, kind of suck. But some of them suck more than others. So there's 2 caterpillar Pokemon that the guy told us about, Caterpie and Weedle. They evolve at level 7 into a cocoon. And the cocoon is even weaker on offense than the caterpillar. But then at level 10, it completes its splendid metamorphosis. Now here's our problem. In the wild, so if you have a caterpillar and you turn it into a cocoon, then it keeps the attacks that it had when it was a caterpillar. But if you encounter a cocoon in the wild, all it can do is harden its shell. It doesn't actually have any attacking moves. Come on, come on, come on. Okay, I wanted a Pikachu, but that's fine, I guess. Caterpie is really not great. You'd think it would be pronounced Caterpie. That's how my grandpa read it. But no, it's Caterpie. Oh my god. Oh, that was close. Part of the Nuzlocke rule set, this hard mode rule set, is that if I meet a Pokemon that I'm eligible to catch and I kill it, that's it. That area becomes dealt with, done for. I'm not, like, that's a Pokemon that I miss out on. Caterpie has an attack called String Shot, which is somewhat suggestive. In Japanese, it's called Spit Thread. And it entangles you in silk that lowers your speed. Okay, here we go. After this, we'll have 5 Pokemon on our team. So, as you can see, Caterpie's called the worm Pokemon. The word caterpillar wouldn't fit there. Obviously, a caterpillar is not a worm. Those are separate animals. But they play fast and loose with how much a Pokemon is supposed to be matched to a real animal. Although there are real caterpillars that look a lot like Caterpie. No nickname yet. Now, remember, when you think of a nickname for Caterpie, keep this in mind. When you think of nicknames, remember that a Pokemon's name will eventually change. So if your nickname that you submit to me makes a cute pun on the Pokemon's name, it might not work when the Pokemon grows up. And furthermore, you don't necessarily want to give Caterpie a nickname that would be good for a caterpillar, because someday it's going to be a butterfly. Alright, let me just hustle back here. And so yeah, those are the basics of Pokemon. I know this was kind of a just you know, a bare bones introduction. Go over the basics, the basic mechanics, and all that kind of stuff. Shit will escalate quickly in the next update, so don't you worry about that. So I'm just going to heal everybody up and go over them real quick, and you guys can start thinking of nicknames, and we'll all get really emotionally invested in these guys, especially because once they have names, it's like they're people. So here's the team at the end of the first video. Actually, what you want to do is you got to change the order so that your most awesome one, your ace, is last, and you should put your shittiest one first, so it gets more awesome as it goes on. Although between these two, it's kind of a toss-up. Okay. Caterpie's a bug type. Bug types, they're not bad, but many individual representatives of the type are bad, and bug is hard to use well. However, Caterpie has a couple tricks up its sleeve that may make it a useful contributor, such as the ability to put opposing Pokemon to sleep. Rattata, Pidgey, Nidoran female. Eventually it will become quite regal, let us say. And our first friend, Bulbasaur. So, think of some names, and we'll start putting the team to use in the next update. The regular season will start. Thanks for watching, everybody. See ya!